Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us in today's webinar, Find, Understand, and Trust Data with Collibra. It's a pleasure to be presenting to you. My name is Colin Zhang, Head of Operations at Billigence Asia, and I'm joined by Michael Smith, Data Governance Consultant from Billigence Australia. Today, we want to share our thoughts with you around the topic of data governance and really show you a great tool, the Collibra platform, that can help you and complement you on your data and data governance journey. With that being said, let me just share my screen and we'll get right into the content. So here is the agenda we have prepared for you today. Before we deep dive into data governance, I want to give you a quick introduction about Billigence as an organization. We'll then go into the Collibra capabilities, followed by the Collibra platform demo, and finally leave some time for Q&A, along with additional resources curated by Billigence consultant that can help you with more information around the topic of data governance frameworks, and so forth. So who are we? Billigence is a boutique data consultancy organization. We are a dynamic and agile business intelligence consultancy headquartered in Sydney, Australia. We have been operating for over 10 years within the industry, and as partners of Collibra, Tableau, Alteryx, Snowflake, and Matillion, we are proud of our expertise in the analytics space. It is our vision to transform the way people work with data, and we achieve so by blending consultancy, technology, tools, and resources to deliver the best outcome for our clients, whether focused at a departmental level or strategically transforming an organization into an empowered, self-service, data-driven business. Personally, I am a firm believer in the powers of self-service analytics, and that is what our diverse team of data enthusiasts at Billigence aim to achieve for our customers, derive meaning from data and helping organizations to become data-driven through our technology partners. We champion self-service analytics through these 4 domain areas you see on my screen. Firstly, cloud data architectures. We guide our customers in their transition into cloud data architectures in order to derive the benefits of scalability and agility associated with the cloud. Secondly is data visualization. We build simple and powerful visualizations so our customers can easily understand trends and patterns from their data. The third one is predictive modeling, where we create user-friendly predictive models so better decisions can be made from historical results or known future assumptions. And lastly, data governance. We enable practical data governance frameworks that deliver high quality and meaningful data to users. As a Collibra partner, we are experts in the data governance space. Pre-COVID, you may see us at various Chief Data Analytics Office events and associated big data forums. With the onset of the global pandemic, we have been hosting a number of webinars and data governance forums led by our data governance lead, Graham Pearman. What's important to take away from this slide is that while each of these domains can be achieved and spearheaded by individual departments within an organization, true self-service analytics stems from having a sound data governance framework. And when we look at the context of data governance, the demand is primarily driven by the onset of tougher and more stringent regulations for data compliance. So in the word cloud, you'll see keywords such as notifiable data breaches, personally identifiable information, and various regulatory bodies and regulations that are often associated with data governance. Coupled with the fear and penalties associated with data breaches, as well as legal compliance, there is a growing realization from business leaders and data leaders alike that efficiency and profitability are increasingly dependent on the availability of high quality data to drive business intelligence, as well as the predictive modeling that I had shown you in the previous slide. So what is data governance? To put it very simply, data governance is the combination of people, processes, and technology working together to ensure that you know what data assets you have, where they are, and who owns them. In reality, though, through our consultancy, it's about establishing an operating model fit for your organization. how to categorize data assets, adopting new ways of working, and making sure that there is governance throughout the entire process. Doing so with industry-leading tools so as much automation and efficiency can be achieved. So the responsibility is distributed across the entire organization and not bottlenecked through a specific team or a department. So usually when organizations start out, they're really looking at data governance maturity 0 in the left-hand quadrant here. And the primary goal is how to avoid data breaches. Typically, we find that DG0 represents a scenario where there's often data quality issues that are either too hard to solve because nobody knows how to do it, or too complicated to solve because they involve multiple teams. It could be your CRM team, it could be your data engineering team. There's so many people involved. And when we look at data literacy, it's often low across the entire organization, and analytic outcomes are usually championed by individual subject matter experts or teams. Here, the perception is that data governance is simply a bureaucratic exercise done to satisfy regulators or the rules we have within the organization. On the contrary, Data Governance 2.0 on the top right-hand quadrant here is that governance should be an enabler, not a roadblock. And it's important for organizations to believe in that and continually stress this fact. An environment where everyone can assist with data efficiency, optimization, and enhanced decision-making. And this is what we're looking to address in this webinar. How can Collibra as a platform help users find, understand, and trust data for everyone in the organization? Once this is done right, it would lead to an abundance of new insights, capabilities, and ultimately excellent outcomes for everybody in the organization. And here I want you to take a pause and really just imagine a world where an analyst sitting in marketing can look at a sales report, understand how the KPI is derived, and the data source used within this process. If he or she has any questions, they can quickly find the subject matter expert responsible and be able to contact them without having to book in multiple workshops and sending back and forth emails, especially in the current climate where everyone is still working from home. So this is the specific demo we have prepared for you today. When we look at the experience of finding, understanding, and trusting data, the Collibra platform offers a lot of different capabilities. At the core of the platform is the data catalog. And when we refer to a data catalog, it's your business glossary, your data dictionary, and metadata repository. Being able to link these things together. How does a specific table sitting in your data warehouse relate to the specific report? How does that report relate back to business terms or business glossary terms such as KPIs? And at the end of the day, how does the lineage connect in between those items? Are you able to have quality scores associated with each step of the process? Because as we all know, data goes from one stage to another stage, ultimately arriving at a report. And in between these processes, there's multiple transformations occurring. Can you get data profiling and data sampling? So if a user was to try and get access to this data, can they do so without needing to actually have access, as long as the rules allow them to see the sample data? How do you get workflows of rules that help you automate that glossary, dictionary, and metadata repository linkage process, and the base integration again to your reports, to your source data, as well as using machine learning to help you automate discovery and tagging of especially sensitive or personally identifiable information. And so that's in the middle of this find, understand, and trust process. So once you have this catalog ready, you're able to then go on the offense or the defense within your organization. For defense, we're really talking about governance and trust. Once you have that catalog, how do you overlay, whether it's the policies, the stewardship, or the reference data you have within your organization? Having an operating model where different teams can take on different responsibilities. Having a certification process. So when someone looks for a certain report, they can differentiate which one is something that they should use and which one they may not want to use because of the certification process. And finally, what's super important in the trust area is having some sort of help desk. So if users have questions, they know how to raise an issue and ask questions about the specific asset. And when we talk about the help desk, this also helps with the crowdsourcing feature in the find experience. And I'll talk about that in a few seconds. The whole data governance maturity 2.0 is all about everyone in the organization having a high level of data literacy so they can once again help you govern your assets and make sure all of the data assets are accurate and efficiently used. Now, coming back to this find experience, this is where organizations can go on the offensive and really get more out of the data. And so this is the end data customer experience where at the beginning of any analytics process, they want to find the right data for them and apply the insights to create, whether it's new streams, new ways of doing business, or new insights from existing data. And so here, the Collibra platform is able to have the search, browse, and recommendation feature, which I'll show you in the demo following the slide. And again, the crowdsourcing, having discussions, having ratings. So there's a whole army of data workers contributing to your governance framework. Data sharing, personalization, intelligence, and help desk. These are areas I've touched on in the catalog, as well as the trust and governance area that we have spoken about just briefly. And finally, what you really need to drive effective data governance framework and operations is reporting. How do you know people are actually doing their jobs in terms of certifying data, updating data, so you can then do your analysis into the usage of your platform? What is the most popular asset people are getting access to or requesting access to? And then integrating it to your other regulatory reporting, whether it's GDPR or specific regulatory requirements you have to, let's say, government bodies within your own organization. So I know at this stage, I've talked for about 13 minutes or so and given you a high-level overview of the Collibra platform, as well as our thoughts on data governance. What I'm going to do for the next 30 minutes or so is really take you through the Collibra demo, focusing on the experience of a data worker within an organization. So let's pretend my name is Cliff, and I am a marketing personnel within a large organization. I want to launch a campaign for a new product where my manager has asked me to look at potential promotional activities for the best customers. But Cliff is new to the organization. He started with the organization during COVID, so he hasn't physically met anyone at work at all. So how can he go through the process? Let me start off with a blank Excel spreadsheet so we can really live a day in the life of Cliff. So I'm Cliff, and I'm wondering, how can I get sales data in my organization? The first step I will do is open up Collibra for desktop. You can almost imagine this as a add-on to every data worker's laptop or their PC. And you can almost imagine it like a Siri for data governance. And so let's say I just want to search for sales. I can type here sales, and what this will do is through the Collibra platform, find all of the assets within my organization. And what you can see here is I have business terms, I have Tableau report attributes, as well as different tables. And how I can differentiate between the two, or between the three rather, is looking at the icons. And what you can also see is the mapping in terms of where this specific data asset belongs to. We see this one belongs to the business analyst community, this business term belongs to marketing, and then this sales also belongs to the business analyst community. So what I might do is click into this and realize that this is belonging to my enriched EU superstore. So this may not be what I want to look for. And so here, let's refine the search and type online sales. Immediately, what I'm greeted with is Power BI reports, as well as dashboards, and also data privacy building blocks I have within my organization. And this is where I can start looking into refining the search from the banner here. I can look at business context and see that online sales belongs to the marketing and sales analytics data model. I can also look at business terms, where I see all of the business terms associated with online sales. So here we have customer bought online indicator, online accounts profile records, etc. And this becomes a very rich repository of information that I can go to if I was to start my analytics process. And finally, I have catalog as well, where here I see this table, online sales information for marketing associated with the marketing analytics datasets. So I can click into this. And this gives me additional information all through this little tool on my desktop without going to a browser and without going to my Wikipedia of information that is known as Collibra. And so here I see the overview. The status is new, but there's only 2 stars associated with it. I see the description that this data set contains information on our sales initiated by our internet site, which includes the order of and the payment of a product, and all of the columns contained within this table. Scrolling down, I see Eliza. I think she's someone that's quite good with data. I've heard of her name before, and she said that this is a poor data set because it doesn't contain additional customer and product related to the sales orders. If you want a data set to do internet sales analysis, please use the following data set instead, customer analytics. And what I can do is here, navigate directly to customer analytics anonymized. I see that this is the information I need. And I see number 1, it's accepted status. It has quite high rating and associated with many different things, whether it's my customer, order, and products domain, or business assets, such as my customer lifetime value, leads, and churn rate KPIs. And going further down, I see that all of these people, Mary Smith, William, Dora, and Eliza, have all given this very, very high ratings. And so at this point, I might want to deep dive a little further to see whether or not this is the data set that I want. And so I can open up the Collibra platform in the web browser experience. And that's the first part of the journey. Myself as Cliff, a marketing data analyst looking to find data within my organization through this Collibra for Desktop feature that I can use easily to find anything I need within the organization. And then when I want to deep dive, I can go from the app into the full-blown web browser experience, as you can see here. And that just shows how easy it is for Collibra to help organizations and data workers within the organization to find and understand data. But before going to all of these details, I'll take a pause here and just show you the platform itself, Collibra on the web experience. So if I was a normal user logging into Collibra, what I'm greeted with is the homepage by itself. And I'll have a range of dashboards. For example, here, I can look at the catalogs dashboard and easily see all of the assets within my organization by the data source type, the asset type, as well as the usage agreements. Now, this dashboard can be customized for all sorts of personas you have within the organization, whether they are a data steward, whether they are a data worker, or someone sitting within the data governance team or the data governance steering committee. And now walking through features of the UI at the top here, this takes me back to the homepage and my dashboard within Collibra. This is the browse feature of Collibra. And understandably, within very large organizations, we have different departments. A really, really good example is the term customer. It might mean different things to the finance community, people working within finance, and also people working in marketing. And so how Collibra helps you segregate the different terminology used by different departments is through this concept of communities and domains. So in this example, we have a finance community, which encapsulates all of the people that work with or are a part of the finance department. We have something similar for marketing. Now, within these different communities, I have different assets, and these are the domains I'm referring to. We have the reports used by the finance team. We have their own glossary, metrics, and systems. And for marketing, it's the exact same thing. And through this concept of domains and communities, that's where we can get really clear on the specific definition of customer and what they mean to the finance team as well as the marketing team. We then have the search bar here, which is very similar to the desktop experience I just shown you. Here we have the shopping basket, which I will cover later in the demo, is the whole experience of searching for the data and checking out the data, just like you'll do for online shopping experiences with Amazon. I have a task icon here, which shows me any outstanding tasks assigned to me by other people within the organization or through the automated workflows. Here I have access to the Collibra community, the university, as well as the marketplace and general information about the Collibra platform. I have my profile here. And finally, I have this menu bar, which allows me to quickly access, let's say, all of the business glossaries I have within my organization, all of the catalogs, so reports, data sets, data sources, etc., as well as the policy, assessments, policy manager, reference data, and the data help desk that I was referring to previously in my slides. So now, after you've seen the UI of Collibra, what I'll do is go back to the customer analytics anonymized data set and put myself back in the shoes of Cliff, the data analyst within the marketing department. So here we are presented with a lot of the same information that you saw on the desktop app, but this time I have much more accessibility to things like details, data elements, and sample data. So looking at the customer analytics anonymized data set, we see that it's a certified data set. It's been accepted by the Data Governance Council, and we have the 4 ratings by all of the people within our organization. What Collibra is able to tell me, and this is really about the understand part of the find, understand, and trust journey, is I have a description that tells me what this data set is meant to do, and I have the business context as well. At any stage, I can click on all of the assets and deep dive to understand more about the data. So putting ourselves in the shoes of Cliff, I see that this data set relates to churn rate and leads. So click on churn rate. I see churn rate, sometimes called attrition rate, in its broader sense, is a measurement of the number of individuals or items moving out from a collective group over a specific period. And also I can look into leads as well. But what's really interesting, besides these 2 business terms, is the specific conceptual and business data models I have associated with this data set. We see it's associated with customer and product, as well as orders. This is super important because most of the time, when we look at the data assets we have in our organization, it's very based on the physical data we have. How many data warehouses, how many schemas, how many servers, tables, or views we have. And it's quite hard without knowing the details to understand which data source belongs to the business data model or the conceptual data model we have in our organization. And through this way, you can quickly see this customer analytics anonymized belongs to the customer and products domain. And as anyone working within data governance or working with the Collibra platform, we're able to add multiple domains within our organization. So you can relate things to individual assets such as address, children, credit card number, etc. And this really helps with the understanding part of the journey. How to relate physical data sets to conceptual and business data models that we need to perform analysis. Now, scrolling down on the summary page, we also have data elements, which tells me all of the fields we have within this specific data sets, as well as the sample data. And I'll cover them through the icons here. But first, let's get into details. So here, when I click details, I'm presented with more information that wasn't shown on the summary page. We see that this data, potentially because it's associated with our orders and customers and products, is highly restricted. It takes data from our marketing system, which is our customer relationship management cloud, and it also is categorized by all of these different policies. It contains commercial information, contact information, as well as contract information about our customers. And this is where the lens of that policy/privacy gets added on top of the Collibra platform. Through the data assets to the conceptual models, finally overlaid by the policies and regulations we have to adhere to. Here, we also see business processes which leverage on this data. We see that customer churn analysis, new product launch campaign, and print media advertisement are all derived from this customer analytics anonymized data set. And it is produced by the business process of enriched customer information. Often what we have is orders data that needs to be enriched with additional customer information so then we can make sure this data set is fit for purpose for all of these business processes. And now coming down here, we see the tags, as well as other information such as analytics models and risk and governance assets that we have, especially when it comes to retention of customer data. Here, what we have is the corporate data policy that this data set can only be retained for the end contract date plus 2 years. And that's the details tab. You can quickly see how Cliff, starting from his find journey, now is able to understand so much more through the Collibra platform without even having to host a single meeting or call a single person at all. But if he was to do so, what we can do is click into responsibilities. And so here, responsibility, we see Eliza, John Fisher, and Joanna are different people responsible for different aspects of the data governance operating model. So Eliza is a data custodian. You can click here to say, it's a person who collects and holds information on behalf of a data provider or requester. The data steward is John Fisher, and WhatsApp owners are Joanna Zhu. If at any stage Cliff is not sure, or if he wants to talk to these people or find who they are, he can come to this responsibility tab and find these individuals. Alternatively, if you remember the data help desk concept I spoke to you about, we have the Ask the Expert feature here, and also we also have the data help desk, which are multiple pathways for Cliff to get the answers he needs without having to go through multiple channels until he arrives at the right person to talk to. And so that's the responsibility tab. Now, data elements, this is very important. And this is some of the great features behind Collibra as well. So now Cliff understands this is the data set he needs. These are the people he can speak to, but what else can he do to make sure that he understands and now begins to trust the data? So here we have all of the columns associated with this data set. And let's pick, for example, color as a field. What we can do here is click into color, and then we are presented with the summary information from the data profiling. And I see that black, red, yellow, blue, multi, silver, and white are the different colors available in this specific field. It's of the text type with 60,000 rows, in which 7 distinct values are shown here. And this is the frequency in which they occur. Almost 9,000 or so have the black color. And if I want to deep dive to understand a little bit more, I can go into the data profiling and be presented with much more information, especially associated with basic statistics, as well as the empty value count. And so the data profiling, and if I can just go back a few pages. Data profiling can be applied to every single field we have. And so you can hover over these individual charts to look at the frequency or the distribution of different values. And you can see the majorly important information like empty value counts all here readily available. The data classification section here is where the machine learning aspect of Collibra really comes in. So Collibra has this concept where by looking and ingesting metadata associated with all of the assets within your organization, we're able to classify, for example, country region code as a country code. And if we had any specific data policies associated with the country code, we will be able to associate this data set specifically to the data classification. And what that ends up having, if I can just show you quickly here, what this ends up doing is it will associate data classification policies to your model against the specific data asset you have. And all of this is done automatically, where if you were to run the workflow for automatic classification, each of these will come up with a percentage score. And then you can click tick or reject to associate data classifications within Collibra that you can customize against the data that you're ingesting. If Collibra wasn't able to find the specific data classification you have in your data set, you can simply add that in as well by selecting the different things you have already created within your Collibra platform. So if, for example, customer alternate key was full name instead, just as a hypothetical example, I can type full name here, and that will associate all of the rules I have in my organization against the data classification of full name against this specific data set. And now finally, the last element that I really wanted to cover out of these 4 icons at the top is the ability to look at sample data. So as any data analyst will know, it's all well and good to know high-level information about the data. I really want to see the specific fields that I'll be dealing with and whether or not it is fit for purpose for my analytics process. And this is where you can achieve it within Collibra. All of this sample data will be loaded, and so the analyst will have a really good idea that this is the data they need to see and use for their process. A good question here that I get from a lot of customers is whether or not the data elements or the data profiling and the sample data can be turned off. And this is really important for government organizations and financial organizations where there's quite a bit of sensitive data. And the answer to that is yes. You can limit permissions in terms of what people see, and you can even turn off the entire data profiling and sample data process as well upon ingestion. Now, diagrams. This is where I showed you the restricted data overview, overlaying our data policies against our conceptual or business models against our specific data set in the CRM cloud system. What we also have here is catalog lineage. And so this is the harmony of data dictionary, metadata, and glossary that I referred to in my slides earlier. As you can see here, customer analytics anonymized data set belongs to the refined system within our SQL Server, refined database. And how this database comes to be is it comes from the raw database within our SQL Server, where for some of the technical folks on this call, we have dimensions and fact tables. So these are dimensions or things describing our customer, our product category, our subcategories, the geography and sales territory, overlaid with fact table for all of the internet sales we have. And through the ETL process, what happens is these different elements get combined to become our customer product sales in the physical table of SQL Server. And then this then goes to our consumption layer, where tablet reports, Power BI reports, or general reporting and analysis can be done, where some of the customer details may be aggregated for process efficiency, etc. What you'll notice here is we have different scores associated with different tables and views we have in this diagram. This diagram firstly is able to tell you the lineage, and secondly, it tells you the data quality score as well. And what we see is at every step of the process, we may be increasing or decreasing the score. And how we can deep dive into that specific score is by using the quality feature of Collibra. And so when I click on quality, it breaks down something that's very complicated in the data and analytics industry into one easy to consume score that is understandable by everyone within the organization. Looking at the screen, I see 75%. It's okay, but it can be improved. But for some of the technical folks on this call, this score is comprised of integrity, duplication, accuracy, consistency, conformity, and completeness. These are different metrics we have within our organization. If I click on any of them and click the details, I actually see specific rules being applied. So here, customer analytics anonymized. We need to make sure the weight cannot be empty, the size must be mandatory, the order must be mandatory as well. And all of these rules can be customized within Collibra, so it's fit for purpose for your organization. And what Collibra is able to do for some of the business users is combine all of these different complicated individual rules into one easy to consume score. And of course, once you set this up properly, you can also monitor the trend or increase and decrease in the score depending on new data coming in or systems updating and refreshing from a database level. Now, I'm conscious of time. I know that we have quite a few attendees on the call looking forward to the Q&A session. So the last thing I wanted to do in this session is really show you two more features. One is the similar data sets. So here, customer analytics anonymized is also associated with the sales data enrichment data asset, should someone want to continue their find and understand and trust journey. But the ultimate outcome for Cliff as a data analyst within the marketing department is after he found this data, understood it and trusted it, what he can do is add it to his data basket. And now what we can do is I see that this data set, which is certified, as well as the description being added to my data basket. And what I can do is check out data basket. And so I need this data to perform analysis into online promotional activities. And I can put a date to it. So let's say I needed it next Friday, and I'll use it until end of November, because it's quite big analysis I have to do. And so I'll also put in a purpose for why I need this data set. The closest one will be conducting promotional activities, and I'll click submit. Now what you see is that the workflow has started in the back end of Collibra, and this is really the automation part where you can get efficiencies through adopting the platform, is that when I clicked off the workflow just then, it triggers automation in the back end of the system, whereby these familiar faces that you saw, Joanna, John, or Eliza, will be greeted with a new task in their screen, and they will be asked to approve my data access request. So let's log in one more time, but this time as Joanna. So here as Joanna, you'll see immediately that I'm greeted with a different dashboard because Joanna is a data steward. And so then I can see my open task, the total open tasks we have within the organization, as well as open issues and new issues. And so all of these become personalized for my role as Joanna, a data steward. And what you see here different to Cliff is that you have this task. And it says, I need to approve the data usage request and add the reason why I'm doing so. So let's click into this. I can either click here or over there. And so what I see is someone needs access to this data to conduct online promotional activities, the effective start dates, the specific asset in question, as well as the purpose of this promotional activity. And here I see the requester is Colin, or in our case, Cliff, and all of that is available here through this icon. Now, as Joanna, I might be responsible for quite a lot of data sets within my organization. And so when I go to the customer analytics anonymized data set, I'm greeted with the same information that Cliff had seen. So we see it's certified, accepted, highly rated, but this time when I go into the diagrams, this is where it gets much more interesting. I'm able to create different views for different individuals, where here I can look at the catalog lineage and see it's going from the raw SQL server to the refined to the consumption. And this data set having a quality score of 76 is associated with this marketing and analytics data model, where we have here restricted data and private data. I can expand on each of these and see this is related to potential information about gender, personal and family details, as well as financial information. It also may contain employment information, purchase history, as well as employee travel information associated with customers. And so what I might do at this stage is through this view of business and privacy context, as well as the restricted data overview, I can see that, hey, Cliff should get access to this data set because he is conducting promotional activities. And it's associated with the new product launch campaign process. So now what I'll do as Joanna is come back here. And I can approve this. I can write data set is of high certification rating and it is fit for purpose. Approved. And now this task has disappeared from Joanna. And let's log in as Colin again. And what I see is a new task. Here I have received a new notice where, because Joanna has approved my data access request, I need to abide by all of our data sharing notices we have within the organization. I cannot share the data with another party. I can't erase the data. I have to erase the data with undue delay when the data is no longer necessary. I can't use the data for any other purpose. I will remove personal data of an identified or identifiable customer upon notification. I can't move it to another application, and all of the above. So now what we have is a full audit trail of me firstly raising this data access request, Joanna approving of this data access request, and me abiding by all of the data sharing notices. A really good question to ask here is, well, does Collibra actually give you access to the platform itself? And the answer is no. What we typically find customers doing is either linking Collibra through APIs to whether it's the IT help desk or ticketing system. Alternatively, what we can do is we can create custom workflows within Collibra where upon the acceptance of the data sharing notice, we will then trigger a notification to Eliza, who in this case is the data engineer. And then the access can be provisioned outside of the Collibra platform through the standard methods and processes you have within your organization today. And so that brings me to the end of my demo. What I will do is quickly jump back into my slides here. And just do a quick recap. So in our demo today, I have shown you the data catalog, the data dictionary, and business glossary aspects of Collibra, where we're able to drive that find, understand, and trust journey. There's so much more out there for Collibra as a platform, and I wish I had more time to show you. We have reference data where you can help every data citizen understand and use reference data, the hierarchies, as well as values you have within your organization. We have a policy manager, which tells different individuals how they can create, review, and update data policies so they're adopted and enforced across the entire organization. We have the data help desk feature, as well as the stewardship. And this is where the machine learning aspect that I have briefly touched on can really be implemented within Collibra. And so what are the primary benefits of Collibra? As you saw through the demo, it is really built for that business user. We went from the desktop app to the web browser experience seamlessly, and it really helped us with the find, understand, and trust process. It's really a holistic platform. You're not just merging up the business glossary to the data dictionary and your metadata. You're really overlaying it with governance, catalog, privacy, and risk use cases. We heard about the machine learning capabilities where it gives us tremendous efficiency and automation through the data ingestion process. And finally, it's enterprise grade. Michael Smith can go into more details about this during the Q&A session, but we have seen numerous implementations of Collibra, whether it's with very large multinational companies, government institutions, financial institutions, and by financial, I mean banks, as well as telecommunication sectors, all of which have quite stringent regulatory rules when it comes to data, data sharing, and customer information. Now, just briefly touching on this slide, our recommendation for data governance implementation is really encapsulated in this single slide. Before you start off your journey, it's really important to have a clear plan of your business priorities and then transform them into data governance scope which can be implemented in Collibra. We need to understand who are the primary users you're targeting. Is it business users within a specific department, or is it across the entire organization, or is it technical users instead? Now, finally, the as-is workflows and data architectures must be understood. The as-is workflows would help us create customized workflows that takes away a lot of this manual processes and automate it within Collibra, while your architecture helps us understand how many different connectors you need for that automated ingestion of source data. Once you complete the groundwork, it's important to set missions and objectives for your data governance framework and implementation. And what this translates to is prioritizing data assets. It gets very tempting to try and do everything at the same time, which is why we say prioritize the specific use cases you had and make sure you start off with a small early win just to drive adoption. It's important to have an operating model. And you saw through the responsibility page, we have different individuals responsible for different things. And it's really, really important to have an overall governing body to drive change, whether it's the data governance office, a steering committee, or something equivalent within your organization. And finally, there's knowledge and training. In order to drive consistency for data governance, whether it's the policies, standards, or terminologies and processes, it's important that everyone is trained along the journey. And all of these elements, whether you're at the beginning of your journey, needing to do a priority and requirements gathering process, or if you're almost there in terms of being able to prioritize the data assets and you need help with training and onboarding, these are all services that Billigence can help you with. Now, with 10 minutes left, I will hand you over to Michael for the specific Q&A process we have in this session. Over to you, Michael.
Thanks very much for that, Colin. It's always interesting to see the impact of the business context that Collibra can provide. You know, we all know it's a great tool for cataloging metadata and discovering data as well, but it really adds a lot of value when you add on that layer of business context, especially around the privacy piece. But yeah, thanks for that again. Now I'd just like to tackle some of the questions that we've received. So let me just get a look at some of these. Can Collibra harvest metadata, or does this need to be populated manually? Yeah, as you touched on this a little bit, Colin, and I know we'll give your voice a break now, but if you want to jump in, please feel free. Yeah, so Collibra can harvest metadata automatically, and Collibra has a suite of different connectors for a ton of different platforms. You know, all the big hitters from SQL Server to AWS to GCP, and you can purchase those, and they are out of the box connectors which you can use to harvest metadata. You can also use the Collibra API if you're comfortable using that as well to bring in metadata assets. And finally, there is a sort of semi-automated manual way where you can use Microsoft Excel CSV sheets to populate and bring those in to Collibra. Let's just see what the next question is. Also, can workflows be customized in Collibra? Yes, absolutely. I think I should start off by saying that Collibra out of the box comes with like a robust catalog of workflows which can be used across, as a number of different use cases, which is a great starting point. In the past here with Billigence, we have created custom workflows from scratch to help deliver specific use cases, but not only that, you can leverage these out of the box workflows and customize them as you sort of see fit and as requirements are. So you have a great starting point already from Collibra, but it's certainly something that we've delivered in the past year at Billigence, so building on top of that and customizing to the needs of our clients. What else have we got here? So does Collibra offer a trial for me to get hands-on experience? Yes, they do. Maybe one of my colleagues can share the link in the chat after, but it's on the Collibra website. I think it's collibra.com/try-Collibra. I might have got that wrong, but there is a portal where you can sign up with your email address and you're able to get hands-on. What I would also say is, if you're keen to see some more of Collibra, further than what Colin's talked about today, get in contact with one of us. We'll be more than happy to take you through a demo instance and talk about a specific use case that you might have. Yeah, and we have a final one here. What is the operating model? What I mean is how similar named KPIs or terms can be differentiated across departments. I think in this instance, you're talking about the community structure that Colin touched on earlier in the call. I think he sort of showed us very early on that drop down on the left-hand side of Collibra that you have different communities, and within those communities, you have different subdomains. So for me, the operating model is just a logical way of creating and showing how your business structure fits within Collibra. So, for example, for a large multinational corporation, you probably have to do that by business function, whether it's like sales, marketing, finance, whatever that might be. But what the operating model in Collibra allows is the flexibility to match what your business has. So maybe you're not that big, you're starting small with Collibra and it's just your analytics team you're starting with. You could have really small targeted communities that are logically grouping business and data assets that you require. But as I said, more than likely it's a large enterprise organization and you're having to really manage these at a business unit level. So yeah, absolutely, you can differentiate across different departments. It's all about getting that structure in place early and just working with the business to understand the needs and their operating model. So I think that's all the questions I have. If there's any more, I'll pause for 10 seconds. Otherwise, I will hand back to Colin to close over.
Not a problem. Thank you for that, Michael. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. What I have as the closing slide of our webinar presentation is a number of curated Billigence content from our website as well as on YouTube. So firstly, as Michael had said, if you wanted to access additional information regarding Collibra, its features, as well as driving a short trial or hands-on experience, please do reach out to us. You can do so by our website, billigence.com/Collibra. We also offer other solutions that you can see from our website on the solution banner. Secondly is the data governance blog that we had published earlier this month, where we examined the top 5 data governance tools to look out for in 2022. And this blog was written by our data governance lead, Graham Pearman, who has years of experience in organizational change management as well as data governance. And finally, if you're interested, there's 2 other webinars that we have hosted in the past. Firstly, there is the Data Governance Meetup, where we talk about the tools and techniques in further detail, especially around how do you implement data governance and what data governance 2.0 really means for organizations in terms of benefits derived. And finally, we have the previous Introducing Collibra Billigence webinar, Streamlined Trusted Business Reporting, which was run by Michael Smith, who you have just seen on the call, as well as our counterparts within Collibra Australia. Thank you once again for joining this session. We hope you found the content useful. It was a presentation done by Michael Smith, the data governance consultant from Billigence Australia, as well as myself, Colin, head of operations at Billigence Asia. Thank you once again for your attention, and I hope you have a great end of the day.